Too Many Turkeys by Linda White. Illustrations by Megan Lloyd. One cold, rainy day, a lost little turkey stumbled into Fred and Belle's tiny farm. "Fred!" Belle cried. "Come run this turkey off. He'll eat my garden." "Not if we feed him." Fred cradled the scared poult into his long fingers. "Turkeys make an infernal mess," Belle muttered. Fred took a gander at the gangling poult. "He looks just like Uncle Buford. That's what I'll call him." Right then and there, Buford adopted Fred as his new mama. Fred built Buford a fine house and fed him. To Belle's satisfaction, he always cleaned up Buford's messes. Belle's flowers flourished, her vegetables grew vigorously, and her berries produced bountifully. But this year, one new ingredient made them grow better than ever. Hardly a day passed that a gardener didn't stop by Fred and Belle's square little house shaded by the huge oak tree to ask, "What is your secret?" Belle smiled. "My special formula fertilizer. A little of this, a smidge of that," was all she would say. The day came for Belle's annual birdhouse convention. Fred set the houses she'd made in her suitcase in the old Plymouth. "Remember, water the gardens every day," Belle said. "I'll take care of everything," Fred assured her. "See you in a few days," she called, rumbling out the drive. Belle hadn't been gone an hour when Fred noticed Buford staring into a field. A wild hen turkey was strutting straight for Belle's lush cucumbers. "Shoo!" Fred said. "Run along. We've already got us a turkey." But the next day the hen was back, and with her more than a dozen others, all sampling Belle's garden. Fred ran at them, flapping his arms. "Out of there!" he shouted. Turkeys flitted from one patch to another, but none departed. Fred looped to the truck and turned up the radio to a thunderous volume, but the birds did not retreat. Those turkeys started swaying to the music. Fred finally fluttered his wings, waggled his knees, and turkey trotted those birds right back into the woods. "Don't come back!" he yelled. The next day, Fred propped up leaning delphiniums, snipped broken tomato branches, and pinched spoiled grapes. He fed Buford, and just as he was shoveling turkey droppings into the barrel behind the barn, he heard something. A flip, a flop, and a flutter. "No!" cried Fred, snatching Buford's bowl from under him. He dashed about the yard. "Eat this!" he shouted, trailing bits of Buford's dinner toward the truck. "Gobble, gobble!" Buford shrilled. "Gobble, gobble, gobble!" The turkeys hollered, flailing after Fred. "Come on, Buford!" Fred hurled the bowl into the truck bed. "We'll drive them so far away they'll never find their way back." Hordes of turkeys settled into the truck bed. Fred jolted the truck out of the yard. Turkeys clung tight as Fred careened up hills and barreled down dales for 20 miles. When Fred pulled over, those dizzy turkeys flopped onto the ground. That night, Fred slept peacefully, knowing Belle's garden were safe. But then, as the first ray of the morning sun peeked in the bedroom, Buford gobbled anxiously. Fred ran downstairs and, with Buford close behind, burst through the back door to find hundreds of turkeys swarming the yard. Fred let out a howl. He ran out the turkeys. Feathers flew. Plops dropped. His foot hit a slimy mess that sent him flying. The ruckus brought neighbors from every direction. "What am I going to do?" he cried. The entire place was a sea of plump, round turkeys. They roasted in the bird bath, fouled porch rails, and squatted in Belle's rocker. Fred struggled up. He took a deep breath and turned to the gawking neighbors. "If you'll help me, I'll tell you Belle's gardening secret." "Sure," they agreed eagerly. "It's Buford," said Fred, winking at the turkey. "When I clean up after him, I put the stuff in a barrel. We add yard and garden clippings and table scraps, too. Belle mixes it and lets it set." Neighbors pinched their noses as they neared the barrel. Buford eats insects that would devour the plants too. His scratching for them loosens the soil so water goes deep. Yep, to have a garden like Belle's, you gotta have a turkey. "Could we have one of yours?" folks asked. "We could spare a few." Fred smiled and headed to the barn for feed sacks and shovels. He and his neighbors filled sacks with turkey plop and garden debris until the yard was prim once more. When folks headed home, Fred made sure he carried a handful of Belle's seeds, a bag of her secret fertilizer, and a turkey until all that remained was Buford. Belle arrived home flustered. "Some of the neighbors have gone and gotten turkeys." "Is that right?" Fred asked. "I hope my secret's not out." Belle noticed her gardens. "Why, Fred, everything looks so nice. You've weeded, you've thinned, and you even trimmed." Within weeks, every house in the county had a spectacular garden. In the corner of each stood a turkey house with a fine, well-fed turkey. Behind every barn sat a barrel. "Fred, where do you think they found so many turkeys?" "So many turkeys?" Fred's face flushed. "This sight has never been prettier. You're right. It is good to have a turkey." Fred patted Buford's head and nodded. "Yes," he thought, "though one turkey is plenty. But then—" Buford had other ideas. The end.